decided to terminate the planned summit in Singapore on June 12th. I believe that this is a tremendous setback for North Korea and indeed a setback for the world.
We finally got a president who has their attention. They're playing the same old game they played for 30 years, and Trump's not going to tolerate it.
A manhunt is intensifying right now for two bombers wanted for setting off an explosive inside a restaurant in Canada.
The bombing near Toronto leaves 15 people hurt, with 3 in critical condition.
President Trump has granted a rare posthumous pardon to boxing's first black heavyweight champion. The move clears Jack Johnson's name for transporting his white girlfriend across state lines.
You're looking live from the deck of the U.S. Intrepid Museum. Lee Greenwood is going to be right there on that stage singing his very famous song.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her.
It's hard not to sing along whenever Lee Greenwood does that, and he's going to be kicking off our summer concert series in the next hour on Fox and Friends, live from the USS Intrepid Museum.
You can hear that song over and over and over, and it still
gets
feel
old.
Emotional, right? Remember,
and I think it dates back to Bush 41, right? That song was written right around that time, and I remember he invited him to the White House. It became really a big story. Meanwhile, are you proud to be American? Send us your pictures. We're going to put them up during this show. What you're going to be doing on Memorial Day. Does anyone know who the guy next to me is?
Well,
he's a proud
so
American.
So does everyone else out here on the street, too. They're coming up
Anthony
and saying hi.
Scaramucci is here, former White House Communications Director.
All right, Brian. Good
How's it going?
I'm doing great.
It's good to have you here.
It is great.
Hey,
Happy Memorial Day, everybody.
Thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit about the shocking news about 23 hours ago. The President of the United States pulled the plug on the North Korea summit because it sounds like he thought North Korea was trying to play us.
Well, I mean, it's probably a combination of different factors, but I think it was obviously a good move because he doesn't want to get caught off guard in the early part of June where they're doing something unexpected. And so his preemptive move was the right one. And that doesn't mean that this summit's not necessarily going to happen. It's still open to a possibility, Stephen, so let's see.
You know, go ahead.
Many in the media mocking the president, saying that this is nothing but just a bad breakup. Listen to what some of the folks are saying on other channels.
There goes that Nobel Peace Prize. He was.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
It sounds like a 13-year-old stream of consciousness in a breakup letter from overnight camp.
The art of diplomacy is a lot harder than the art of the deal.
And when he got this letter from the president saying, okay, never mind, he must be having a giggle fit right there now in North Korea.
The president was rehearsing his end zone dance, and we weren't even at the 50-yard line yet on this summit.
This is a total breakup letter, and you realize like this when your relationship starts souring, but you want to be the one to break up first, so you cut it off. But you're kind of like, maybe we can leave it open-ended. That's what this feels like.
Not exactly a breakup letter. Somebody was cheating, it sounds like.
I mean, so it's got to be enormously frustrating for the president because he's a business person and a negotiator and is playing it very straight, and they're spinning it that way. And if you look at the politicians that were just interviewed, it's all the same sort of nonsense. And so at the end of the day, he's got a deal on the table that he will accept for the American people. If that does not work, then there'll be no deal. It's just really that simple. And that sort of bluntness and that steely backbone is something that these guys don't like, which I find very ironic. It's almost like they're supporting places. They support MS-13, Hamas, and now they're supporting Chairman Kim.
They didn't want him to do a deal.
No, they don't, because they don't want him
to get a win.
They don't want him to get that win, and that's sort of crazy that we're all Americans, and the guy has the best interest at heart. You know him personally. We all know him personally. You know, he's a great guy. At the end of the day, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's get this deal done if it's going to happen.
Anthony, he's swimming against the stream. He's doing things his own way at a level, international relations level, that people go to school for generations to learn. And he's doing things his own way, bringing business into this to the stratosphere, and it bothers a lot of people. But I would just say this. North Korea's measured response in return to the president's letter is noteworthy. They didn't come back with negative comments or calling the vice president dumb again. They say, listen, if you can get this back on track, we still would like to meet. So that shows that the letter, to a degree, worked.
I would say that, and I would also say that there's something going on underneath the surface that we'll discover 6 or 12 months from now.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
That will play into the hands of Secretary Pompeo and President Trump's statesmanship and brinksmanship in terms of getting a deal done. So I'm still very optimistic that a deal will happen, and I think it will happen along the lines of what the president's talking about. And just remember, when he brought the hostages back, no concessions, no payments, none of the nonsense that those politicians that were on those shots were talking about. Okay, so this is a new era, and the good news is that you get the right guy in charge to handle this.
Speaking of politicians, Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy went over to see some Department of Justice officials. They thought they were going to be able to see some unredacted documents. According to some of the online stuff I've read, apparently the Department of Justice did not show them what they wanted. Then the Gang of Eight came in and they looked at stuff, and none of the Republicans I heard would comment about it because it was classified. Nonetheless, the news in the last week has been, did the federal government insert somebody close to the Trump campaign to monitor what was going on? Ari Fleischer was on our air yesterday, and he said it happened during the Obama administration. And with something so explosive, POTUS would have known. Watch.
We need to know, why did it begin and who authorized it? What role did Barack Obama have? Did he know that the FBI was going to put informants there? And I'll guarantee you the answer is yes. No FBI would put informants in another presidential campaign without permission from the White House, including the president.
So,
well, listen, my hat goes off to Ari because he was a Bush 43 guy, part of the establishment, part of the artifice. He knows exactly how it works. For him to be out there saying this, it should be a wake-up call to people that the president's onto these people. He has the goods on a lot of them, and now they're squirming, trying to figure out how they're going to answer for the mistakes that they made or the transgressions that they made.
What do you mean the goods on a lot of them? You mean people in the West Wing?
Well, no, I think it's a combination of people. I think it's obvious that there's been some weaponization of some of these agencies at the tippy top level, and I think the president would say to all of the rank and file members of the FBI and the Department of Justice that you're good people and you're great Americans and you're impartial. But at the tippy top, they did not want him to win. They were super afraid of it, and I think that they weaponized these agencies in a way, and he caught them. And so the great thing for America, frankly, is that he won, and we have the opportunity now to clean this up and to bring those agencies back to where they belong, which is a depoliticized situation for America. Right. And get it. How do you do that?
How do you do that, and how do you see this playing out? Will anyone go to jail?
Well, I don't know if anyone's going to go to jail because it's a tricky thing about Washington. You know, they sort of protect each other. And so the likelihood of people going to jail, I think, is low. But how do you do that? You're probably going to have to bring ex-governmental officials in from both sides and hammer out an agreement that relates to some level of depoliticization. Right. So almost like a Simpson-Bowles commission to try to depoliticize things.
Only if they do Simpson-Bowles, maybe they'll adhere to it when they come to their conclusions. Yeah, exactly. And I just think some FBI agents are saying, please subpoena me because they want to come out against Comey. I'm very fascinated to see how this plays out. Meanwhile, there's something got underplayed yesterday because of the blizzard of information, and that is the president did something that's been rumored for about 5 different presidents. He pardoned one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time who was jailed for something that's embarrassing, a racist rule, the Mann Act, taking a white woman across state lines, claiming that she was a prostitute. They put him in jail. He ended up cutting a deal where he served 10 months. I'm talking about Jack Johnson, the original Muhammad Ali, who was a champion for years. The president said, I see this stuff, let's pardon him. A great-grandniece was there, Lennox Lewis was there, Sylvester Stallone is the one who told him about it. This is important.
Well, listen, I love the story on so many different levels because supposedly the president's a racist, okay? And so this is like obviously ironic that he's one of the least racist people that we all know. And so here you are in a situation where Sly Stallone brings the case to the president. The president looks at it, immediately says, okay, this is completely and totally unfair. And that exoneration sends a message to everybody, okay, about what is fair in our society and what isn't. And so for me, I'm very proud of the president, very proud of the president doing that. And it's interesting that his critics are not talking about that. They want to talk about the breakup letter. In the meantime, he's probably going to bring us peace on the North Korean peninsula, but they're not talking about this monumental thing that he just did yesterday in the Oval Office by pardoning Jack Johnson.
Why has it taken so long? Why didn't President Obama do that?
Well, I think it never got to the front burner for any of these guys. At the end of the day, the president moved it to the front burner because he's a compassionate person. And so, you know what happens in Washington, okay? A Jack Johnson who passed away in 1946, it just wasn't that relevant. But I just want you to think of the symbolism in the inner cities of doing something like this. The message is loud and clear. The president said in 2016, give me a chance. And I think that they're giving them a chance. And the results are there. You have the lowest unemployment in the African-American community in the history of gauging that unemployment.
But I want to see that, Anthony, but I want to see the urban policy. He's talking about a program that we got to unveil it. I want to see what Ben Carson's doing. They got to communicate it. So that would be the next step.
We also got to resolve the situation in Chicago. I mean, it's ridiculous what's going on in Chicago.
84 shot.
All right. Anthony, thank you very much for joining us on this. Our first Friday outside, and we're celebrating Fleet Week.
Ainsley's a tiny bit cold, right? Ainsley, a tiny bit, right?
What I say?
Actually,
it's okay.
Feels good.
All right,
Yeah,
okay. Just checking.
Real quick, are you doing a TV show with Avenatti?
I'm not doing a TV show with Avenatti, no. Are you doing one with Avenatti?
No, I don't know.
No, we're doing one with you right now.
I like people that have full head of hair. You like people that are captured.
All right, then I'm eligible.
Okay,
good.
Okay.
Thanks, Mooch.
All right, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some more headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. Looks like a beautiful morning outside. Let's get you caught up on your news with this Fox News alert. A manhunt intensifying right now for 2 bombers wanted for setting off an explosion inside a restaurant. The blast near Toronto, Canada, injuring 15 people. 3 of them are in critical condition. The 2 suspects seen in this surveillance photo dropped off the homemade bomb and ran away. Police say right now there's no evidence linking the explosion to terrorism or a hate crime. Today, hundreds are expected at the funeral for a Baltimore police officer killed in the line of duty. Amy Caprio was run over as she responded to a burglary. First responders escorting her body to a funeral home. The heartbroken community lining the streets, shaking hands with police. They lit candles at 8:14 p.m. in honor of Officer Caprio, whose patrol car was number 814. 14s face murder charges in her death. The Air Force is working to load precision-guided nuclear weapons on F-35 jets. These are the same fighter jets deployed to the Pacific to participate in drills with South Korea. It comes as a $716 billion annual defense policy bill makes its way through the Senate Armed Services Committee. It must now be approved by the full Senate. A Georgia police officer springing into action to save a choking 2-month-old baby girl. And the dramatic moments were caught on his dash and body cameras. Watch this.
Small compressions here.
Do you all know?
There we go.
Officer Nick St. Ungi using his military and police training to perform CPR for 3 minutes until baby Ziona finally took a breath. The baby stopped breathing while drinking her bottle. Very thankful for him on this.
Wow.
Right place at the right time.
Yes.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much. All right, meanwhile, straight ahead on this Friday, disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein expected to turn himself into police at any moment. We're live outside the precinct here in Manhattan with details on possible charges coming up next.
Plus, this police officer got his badge at graduation and a wife.
All right, 17 minutes after the hour, disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein expected to turn himself in today.
He plans to surrender to New York City police and will reportedly be charged with rape.
Laura Ingle is live here in Midtown Manhattan with details. Laura?
Good morning, guys. Well, Harvey Weinstein is certainly used to the popping lights of paparazzi, but this is going to be something entirely different. There will be no red carpet, only criminal charges, which await him this morning here in New York City. And as you can see the video, maybe you've got some live pictures from one of our other cameras. We've got photographers that are at least 4 to 5 rows deep awaiting his arrival. Weinstein is expected here at the NYPD's first precinct any minute to turn himself in on these criminal sexual assault assault charges. This is the first time he will be charged in any of the many accusations against him. He is expected, as you mentioned, to be charged with rape, also committing a sex act. The New York Times reporting a bail package was negotiated in advance and that Weinstein will put up $1 million in cash, will agree to wear a monitoring device, have his travel restricted, and will surrender his passport. The charges are believed to be related to allegations of sexual assault of at least one woman, possibly more. Since October of last year, close to 80 women have come forward with allegations against the movie mogul, helping to fuel the Me Too and Time's Up movement. And while police in at least 4 cities, including Manhattan, continue to investigate these criminal accusations, these are the first charges to be announced this morning. Actress Rose McGowan is one of Weinstein's many accusers and was asked if his impending arrest will start the healing.
Something has to heal it. But I am somewhat resigned to the fact that he'll be in my obituary and that we'll kind of be tied together until he dies or I die.
Many women's advocate groups and elected leaders have been frustrated by the district attorney's pace on this investigation after the DA's office decided not to prosecute Weinstein in 2015 after he admitted to groping an Italian model during an NYPD sting operation. That investigation was dropped. It was determined there was not enough evidence. We do want to mention throughout all of this, Weinstein has denied any allegations of non-consensual sex. It looks as though we do have some movement behind us. We'll bring you the very latest as we get his arrival here at the 1st Precinct. Back to you.
All right, Laura, thank you very much. Live report from New York.
That's right. Well, she is one of the 17 people killed in the school shooting down in Parkland, Florida. There's her picture, and her father is taking action.
After Sandy Hook, we should have fixed it. If our leaders had fixed it, then my daughter would still be alive.
Andrew Pollack is here to announce his 8-point plan to make our schools safe. That's coming up next.
Meanwhile, Abby Huntsman is live at the Intrepid Museum with our friend Lee Greenwood as we kick off our All-American Summer Concert Series. Live, coming up.
From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, hey, this land was made, you and me, as I was walking.
7:24 here in New York City. Time for some news by the numbers. First, 41 million. That's how many people are hitting the road this Memorial Day weekend. 41 million. Travelers will face the highest gas prices in years, paying about $3 a gallon throughout much of the country.
Wear your seatbelt.
Yeah, wear your seatbelt indeed. Next, 106. That's the age of the oldest surviving Pearl Harbor veteran. He met with President Trump inside the Oval Office. The photo posted on Twitter welcoming Ray Chavez of California to the White House. And finally, $0. That's the cost for military families to get into SeaWorld and Busch Gardens in Florida. Both parks giving free admission in support of our nation's heroes through the 4th of July.
Wonderful.
That is great. Get your family together and go to SeaWorld and Busch Gardens in Florida.
All right, let's change gears. Recent school shootings in Texas and Florida has one man on a mission to end the violence.
Just fix it. How many more kids have to be killed until we fix it? After Columbine, we should have fixed it. After Sandy Hook, we should have fixed it. If our leaders had fixed it, then my daughter would still be alive. No political parties or organizations have fixed it. I will now be taking this matter into my own hands.
That man right there, Andrew Pollack, he joins us now. He's an activist, and he's the father of slain Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School student Metta. We've seen Metta's picture. We've heard you talk. You had a message for the president, and now you have an 8-point plan. Tell us, first of all, how are you doing? How's your family?
Well, it's tough. You know, every day is a challenge. You know, it's not like when people say it gets easier with time. When you lose a child, it doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
When you were at the White House and it was all broadcast live, you and your sons were right there, and you said, let's put politics aside, let's just fix it. I'm glad that you hammer that message home in that. You've got 8 points. We're going to talk about 4 of them. And if you would, we'll run through them real fast, and then we'll go back and talk about them. First of all, you say secure the perimeter, control the flow, protect the interior, and develop the school safety volunteer network. Let's start with secure the perimeter. How do you do that?
Well, we you ever hear of like Neighborhood Watch?
Sure.
So we're doing now, parents can volunteer. We're going to do a class watch where, like, say, you could go an hour in the morning, like a half hour before school starts, and then stay till a half hour after.
So different parents would volunteer for
Just the
different times of the
perimeter.
day.
It's just a deterrent right at the perimeter of the school, because most of these people that do these mass shootings are cowards. So if they see a parent, even a grandparent, I have my mom who's like 80. She's like, what could I do? We have an army of grandparents that live in their 55 and older community. They want to go and volunteer at the school.
Are they armed?
No, they're not armed.
All right, so
but
they
it's a deterrent.
Right. So let's talk about the next point on your plan, which is control the flow.
Control the flow is you have to have entry points. You can't have 6 entry points for people to enter the school. That's what happened at Douglas. There was a few entries, and also the gates were open. You know, you can't have gates open and doors open at schools.
And we just saw a shooting in Texas right after this. Same thing.
Yeah, and I was just in Texas too. I went to comfort the families out there, and my heart broke for them, and it's just a sad situation that it keeps happening.
Yeah, what did you say to the president when you were in the Oval Office? What was that conversation like?
Well, a good thing that when I went to the president, he listened. So when I was there, the president, I spoke with him about forming a commission, and he went and did that. He listened, and he formed a commission with his cabinet members, and they're looking into school safety. So, but that's at a federal level. But what parents could do now, what I've learned since my daughter was murdered, is you have to get involved at a local level. You have to get involved with your school board, your PTA, your PTO, and you have to make sure that they have the same ideology as you do, because some of these school board members, they just don't feel the same way we do about school safety.
And you also say, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, protect the interior, place armed guards within every school.
Yeah, that's very important to me, the armed guards. I'm working on a program now in Florida with arming veterans and retired law enforcement. So it's like dual purpose. We could give veterans a purpose. They could work at schools, and retired law enforcement.
So you have a program where it says, so if I just got out of the Marines and I want to go do this, you'll train me for school activities?
Well, right now you had that sheriff on the air in Polk County. So I've been working with Sheriff Grady in Polk County, and the first cadets, about 80 of them, will be going through the class on June 4th. They start up in Polk, and they're going to be distributed throughout the county in the public schools and private sector.
There's been some talk that some teachers should be armed. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with it right now, but there's plenty of veterans that we could use in those positions.
Right, especially if they become teachers, if they're trained. But Andrew, you're looking at this, let's secure our schools now. But other want to say, let's look at video games. Let's look at violence in movies. That takes too long. You're saying we got to do this today.
Well, when I was in Texas, my heart was broken. And those people, they have one agenda in Texas, and that's they want their schools safe, they want their kids safe.
Right.
So to me, we need metal detectors at the schools. And if I had a child right now, there's no shot that I'm sending my kid to school without a metal detector.
It would be money well spent. Andrew, for folks looking in, do you have a website with the plan on it?
Sure. You could go to americans4class.org. You could look at my 8-point plan. And you could see what we're doing, because I'm recruiting an army of Americans right now, because Americans, we want our kids safe, and we have to do it right now.
And we want to help. All right, Andrew Pollack, we thank you very much, and so sorry for your loss.
Yes.
Right, indeed.
All right.
But you're taking action, which is admirable. Meanwhile, 30 minutes before the top of the hour, moments ago, disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein turned himself into police. We'll have the latest as he walks in and faces his crimes, alleged.
Plus, Abby is live at the Intrepid Museum with our friend Lee Greenwood. There they are. Hey, Abby.
Hey, Ainsley, a great friend of the show. We all know him. We all love him, Lee Greenwood. This is not the first time he has performed on top of the aircraft carrier, but this will be his favorite because it's Fox and Friends. The sun is out, but he loves our military, and you love Memorial Day. And right after this break, we're going to talk to you, get to know you a little better.
Yes.
And then later on the show, you're going to perform.
Of course, here we are at the Intrepid, right in the middle of New York City. The last time I was on an aircraft carrier was in the Persian Gulf on the Nimitz and performed live for the sailors. This is a magic day. We want to wish everybody a very happy Memorial Day. We'll see you in a few minutes live.
Back after this.
I have read a fiery gospel writ in burnished rows of steel. As he deal with my contemptors, so with you my grace shall deal. Let the hero born of woman crush the serpent with his heel.
All right, here we go. It's a Fox News alert. Moments ago, disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein turning himself into police. He surrendered to New York City officers and will reportedly be charged with sexual assault this coming months after dozens of women accused Weinstein of sexual misconduct. Some of them high-profile actresses, as you know.
And as we heard a moment ago in Laura Ingalls' report, apparently he has negotiated a $1 million bond and will, going forward, once he's released, be wearing an ankle bracelet.
He's in a lot of trouble, and I cannot believe he's been out for an entire year while these rumors have been out there about all his indiscretions. Meanwhile, graduates at the U.S. Naval Academy getting a special message from their commander-in-chief.
Their commencement ceremony for more than 1,000 midshipmen starts in just a couple of hours in Annapolis.
Wow, look at that picture. And Kevin Cork is live in Annapolis with a preview for us. Hey, Kevin.
Great to be with you guys. Almost 1,100 graduates will cross that stage today and celebrate with the president here at Navy Marine Corps Stadium. This is, by the way, the 19th time a commander-in-chief has been able to address the graduates here. The president, however, is not a Naval Academy grad like a former president, Jimmy Carter, believe it or not. Now, I mentioned those nearly 1,100 graduates. 35 of them will graduate as fully trained Navy SEALs. Quite amazing. Now, we have talked about the Naval Academy over the years. It's always tremendous to come here and see that flyover by the Blue Angels. A number of luminaries have actually crossed that stage previously. Some big names in sports, for example, Roger Staubach of the Dallas Cowboys, David Robinson, the Admiral of the San Antonio Spurs, just to name a couple. Obviously, luminaries in politics like Senator John McCain, and certainly we wish him the very best as he continues to battle cancer. But for the president today, we expect a number of familiar themes. Peace through strength. Obviously talking about his passion for this country and the men and women who serve it, and most notably the thing that they protect for all of us, and that is freedom. Should make for a tremendous speech coming up a little bit later this morning. We're expecting around 10 o'clock, we'll see, give or take, and of course we'll have all the live coverage for you. But for now, back to you.
Before you go, Kevin, just a question. We see them at the conclusion, everybody throws up their hat. Do they get their hats back? Because I know sometimes they do put their names in them.
They do sometimes get their lids back, but I got to tell you, I've gone to a number of Air Force Academy graduations, and when you come here, it's sort of the same thing. Those lids go up, good luck finding it back, but usually they can.
And I will say this, thanks a lot, Kevin. There's really euphoria. You know why? Because it's physically, mentally, emotionally taxing more than any other college when you go to these academies. It's a sense of relief.
It is indeed. Meanwhile, he is known for his patriotism and outstanding support for our American military.
He is, and the Grammy Award-winning country music icon is kicking off our summer concert series.
On the Intrepid, we have this Abby Huntsman woman who hosts all weekend long. Abby, what do you have for us?
Good morning, Steve Ainsley, Brian. Yeah, why perform on the plaza when you can do it on the deck of the Intrepid? I think we've got Navy, we've got Army, Coast Guard, Marines. Air Force must have slept in this morning. We have no idea where they are, right? But I'm here with someone that we love on the show, Lee Greenwood, who's going to perform later for us to kick off the All-American Summer Concert Series. But this is not the first time you performed on an aircraft carrier. What does it mean to you?
Well, you know, every time we're on a carrier, it represents the real power and strength of the American Armed Forces. We have this wonderful group of sailors and Marines, Coast Guard people behind us here. There's no way of knowing what their life's going to be like as they move on with their careers. We're excited to be here on this Memorial Day, though, here in New York City on the deck of the Intrepid aircraft carrier, which is a proud history of service for the United States Navy.
Yeah, it's a ship that served both in World War II, the Vietnam War, a lot of history, and now it's turned into a museum. Just spending the morning with you, Lee, though, you've gone around, you're so interested in members of our military. You ask who they are, what are they doing? Why is it such a passion of yours?
Well, it's not just because my father served in the Navy and the Merchant Marine, which he did very proudly during World War II, and that's an important factor for our family. But I didn't serve in the military, and I know from talking to many of these sailors and Marines that they really want to tell you exactly what their life is like. It's very different than ours. As citizens of the United States, we count on them to protect us, and they do. They take it extremely serious. You can see the serious faces behind us, right?
Right.
And it's nice to be able to get them just kind of talk to you for a second and tell them what their life's like.
Although they had a fun night last night, right? This is supposed to be a fun weekend. It's Fleet Week. It's also kicking off Memorial Day weekend. So this is a tradition. I think it's the 30th year of Fleet Week, and it's obviously a big passion of yours. You've served. You've done over 30 USOs, or about 30, is that right?
30 USO tours.
You sang at the inauguration for President Trump. What do you think the mood of the country is right now? When we talk about our military, we talk about where we are, how things are going. How do you feel?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because a lot of people maybe are curious because the media coverage generally focuses on something that's more of a negative. We do concerts all across America all the time. I really get a good feeling, particularly in sports events, and I'm doing a couple this particular Memorial Day, the NASCAR 600 in Charlotte, and I'm also going to go out and sing for the hockey game. And when you get a bunch of people together that are just citizens of America, and you see the spirit when they bring out the flags and they bring out the fact that everybody loves America so dearly.
The national anthem.
Well, yeah, respect for the country. And that gives these people much more courage to do their job.
Yeah. All right, quickly, the end of the show, you're going to be singing God Bless the USA. Just give people a sense of that song. It is the most recognizable patriotic song in this country. What inspired you to write it?
Another piece of music while I was at MCA, and we were touring very heavily during the first days in Nashville, 300 days a year. I wrote most of the music in the back of my bus, and it gave me a chance just to do something I always wanted to do. After being a farm boy in Sacramento, California, it's kind of heavy cotton here, being in this wonderful setting here in New York. But God Bless USA became a very special song after it was used by not just President Reagan, but several other presidents, including our current administration. And I'm just proud to be able to represent the United States in some way that's very positive.
Well, we are all grateful to have that song in our lives. You're going to perform it at the end of the show. You do not want to miss that. Thank you all for being here this morning. It is beautiful out here in New York City. We don't get this very often. Steve Ainsley, Brian, I'm going to send it back to you.
That's right, Ainsley. Thank you very much, and Lee as well. And if anybody's watching and you got a weekend, you'd like to take a look at some of the military equipment that our nation has, Fleet Week is open for business on the west side of Manhattan.
And the Intrepid's always open. They really converted that thing. It's a brilliant museum.
Now a museum.
And of course, special thanks to the Earth for providing great weather.
It is a nice day. Thank you, Mother
All right,
Nature.
thank you, God. Jillian's inside. She has some headline sports. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up on this story we've been following. NFL players reportedly considering new ways to protest despite the league's new rule. The NFL now requiring all players to stand or remain in the locker room for the national anthem. Teams will be fined for violations, but one NFL media reporter says, quote, some players are telling me they're considering staying in the locker room or making a different on-field gesture simply because they feel this new policy is a direct challenge to them. All right, take a look at the left of your screen right now. A man is seen bolting out of a Russian courtroom during sentencing. Those around him quickly jumping into action to chase him down, but he is actually still on the run. Here's why. Take a look. He's sprinting outside to the right, and the crowd behind him goes running in the opposite direction. The man was being sentenced for kidnapping. Well, this police officer got a new badge and a fiance all on the same day. That's police officer Julian Padron dropping down on one knee at his graduation ceremony in Miami. Of course, his shocked girlfriend said yes, and we say congratulations to both of them.
That is great. What a beautiful couple.
What a day.
Sweet.
All right. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, it's time for the weather, and Janice Dean does that, and here she is with it.
I stole your crowd, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in New York City. What are your names?
I'm Maddie.
And?
I'm George.
Tell me the weather here in New York.
It's 71 degrees here in New York. With partly cloudy skies.
Oh my gosh, amazing. You are hired. How many people from Florida here? All right, let's do Florida weather, because you know what? You might be here in New York for a couple of days. We have a potential for a tropical system we are watching across the Gulf Coast and Florida in towards the southeast. This could be our first named storm of the season. That will be Alberto if it actually gets its tropical characteristics. The potential for heavy rain over the next couple of days is going to be the main concern. All right, wave to everybody at home. Thank you for coming to Fleet Week in New York City. Yay! Do you guys love Fox and Friends?
Yes!
Yes! Nicely done.
Thank you, Janice. All right, we're going to step aside, and coming up, we've got all sorts of stuff. Well, take a look at this. There was a big protest in Chicago, a Chicago police union calling out Mayor Emanuel during a massive protest, but then anti-police protesters crashed the event. The head of that police union here to respond next.
Plus, what did the media think of President Trump's letter canceling the North Korean summit?
It sounds like a 13-year-old stream of consciousness in a breakup letter from overnight camp.
And this kind of reads like everybody's worst relationship.
Corey Lewis Lewandowski has some thoughts about that. He's coming up.
I'm sure he's not happy with that picture. And Lee Greenwood is getting ready to kick off his summer concert series. At least he promises to sing for us. We brought the band and the music. He brings the vocals and the writing. He's live on the Intrepid.
A police union calling out Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel as anti-police in an organized demonstration being called Blue Wednesday. However, anti-police protesters crashed the event and made quite a scene. Did you see that? That woman apparently spits at some police officers walking that way. Join us right now with his reaction is Kevin Graham, the president of that union, the Fraternal Order of Police, Chicago Lodge 7. Kevin, good morning to you.
Good morning.
First of all, that image of that woman spitting on the cops really bugs me.
It bothers me as well. Later today, we're going to try and identify who the woman was. We're still looking into the entire situation. I want to give a great round of applause to the men and women of the Chicago Police Department who were there in City Council that day. They did not engage the anti-police people. They held firm and made sure that they were professional the entire time.
Okay. Why do you call Rahm Emanuel anti-police?
Well, there has been a series of events. The most notable event was that where we had a very controversial shooting where an officer was defending himself. Someone came at him with a baseball bat, tried to hit him in the head with the baseball bat. He fired a shot, killing the offender. Also in that exchange was an innocent bystander was also killed, and that's very unfortunate. We never want innocent people to be hurt or killed, and so my family goes out to her family.
Absolutely. You just feel like the mayor doesn't have your back, but the mayor's office put out this statement: when you have people on either side of the police reform issue criticizing, it's a sign we're hitting it down the middle of the fairway as we continue to build trust between officers and residents. Kevin, it doesn't sound like you trust him.
Well, here's the problem. They keep entertaining things like Civilian Oversight Board when we have enough oversight already in the police department. We have a civilian accountability unit called COPA. They review all uses of force issues. We have every time there's a shooting that is sent to the Justice Department. We have internal affairs. We have a number of steps.
You just don't trust the mayor, and that is a problem. Kevin Graham, the president of Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 7. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're in a tough spot. All right, meanwhile, straight ahead, Mike Rowe taking a big shot at the safe space movement. You got to hear his message from millennials who don't want to work hard. Plus, Corey Lewandowski going to join us live.